Hello, lovely people. Welcome to episode 3 of Off Script with Emma. Now, if you listen to episode 2, you know that this episode is all about the career change. So, I went from being a teacher to a remote closer. And this episode is all about what is remote closing? What was the career change that I did? Where did I start? Where am I now? And a little bit from along the way. So, remote closing. I really just want to give a quick overview of what the heck a remote closer is because people ask me all the time. So, a remote closer, remote meaning you can do it from anywhere, closer meaning you close a deal, is I'm basically a salesperson who works remotely. I can work from anywhere, I work from my computer. So, what does that mean? Well, what I do is I work for businesses and I jump on calls with their potential clients. So, say for example, you're looking on Instagram and you come across someone who has a product or a service or an offer. Let's say it's a weight loss program. This is always a really easy one to explain. Let's say you come across someone who is a weight loss coach. They have a 12-week program where you can lose weight, get nutrition advice, one on one coaching, all of these kinds of things. Okay. The business owner is not going to be talking to potential clients who book in a call to join the program. Okay. The business owner, they're too busy. So, what do? They hire a sales team. In that sales team are what we call closers, and that's what I do. So basically, what I do is I would jump on a call with people who want to join the weight loss program, and I go through a call flow with them, and I either sell them into the program or the service, or I don't. Now, what that means is that I can choose my hours. I can open my calendar when I want to jump on calls with potential clients coming through. And basically, how it works is for every client that I bring in, I earn a commission. Now, this industry and people who are working in this role, predominantly commission only. There are some roles that is a base plus commission, but I work purely on commission. So, going from teaching education where I had a permanent job, I had income that I knew I was getting all year round, every year, didn't have to worry about it, to now being commission only, it is a big shift. But that is what a remote closer does. Now, I can work for any kind of business. Okay, the skills that I have, the skill set that I've had to be a closer, I can work for any kind of business. I could work for a company that is a weight loss program company. I could work for a company that sells business coaching. I could work for a company that sells wellness retreats. So if you've ever gone on Instagram or online and seen people who run 4 or 5 day events where you do wellness and yoga and there's meals and all these kinds of things, those programs like range anywhere from 3 to 5K. So it's what we would call a high ticket offer, meaning that it is an expensive or a highly priced offer. Okay. So you need salespeople to sell those things. Okay. Now, the reason that this industry is really sought after is because you can choose your hours. I can choose when I work. I can open my calendar when it makes the most sense. So I have that autonomy over my schedule. And also because when you're working in the space where you're selling a high ticket offer, your commission that you earn is quite high per sale that you make. So for example, on the lower end of the scale, there are businesses and companies and products and service that would sell something, let's say anywhere from $2,000. You work off a 10% commission for the most part. Some are lower, some are higher, but it's typically around 10%. So if I sell a $2,000 program, I get $200 for that sale. Now, if you get good at what you do, ideally you jump on a call and you close them on that one call. Sometimes there might be follow-ups or a second call, but the aim is to close them on the call. So potentially you could be working for $200 an hour, all the way up to some high ticket programs are in like the $15,000, $20,000, right? So if you're getting on an offer that you're selling at $20K, you could be earning $2,000 in an hour sales call. So the range is there, the money is there, and that is why people like working in this industry. Now, it's not as simple as that though. It's not as simple as I take 10 calls in a week and I get 10 sales and I earn, thousands and thousands of dollars. It's not how it works. You're not always going to sell everyone. You're not always going to have a full calendar. There's a lot of things that go into it. But that is basically what I do for a job now. And when I first made the change, I really didn't know too much about the industry. I just knew that I was jumping on sales calls with people. I was helping them to connect them with a service or a product that was going to help them, and I was going to earn money while doing it. And I could work from anywhere in the world. So of course I was interested in that. The main reason that I ended up going through with it though and learning the skills is because it was pitched to me that it is leadership. Okay? So it wasn't that I was interested in selling things or really the money. Yeah, the money was great, the flexibility was great, but it was sold to me as like, you're a leader in this space. You're a leader on these calls. And I loved that. I loved that because for me, I was in teaching, I was in education, and I had this thought process all the time of what could I do differently? Where can I transfer my skills? Where can I be in a space that utilizes what I'm great at? And so I was like jumping on sales calls, leading people to a solution to help them with something. It was a no-brainer. I love helping people. I love leading. I love talking and all those things. So to me, it just felt like a really good fit. So I was hyped. It's like, yep, I'm going to learn a new skill. I'm going to get out of teaching. It's going to be great. I'm going to choose my own hours. I'm going to earn great money. Like I had really romanticized everything. I really had. And the adjustment and the reality of learning the skills and moving into the industry has been really hard for me, has been a massive challenge. And this is another part of why I wanted to talk about it on Off Script, and I really wanted to bring it into the podcast because I wanted people to feel normal about how hard it is to make change, how hard it is to be disciplined when you're making change, because everything about us as humans is we want comfort, we want safety. And so the moment things get hard, how often do we just sink back into old routines and old things and old behaviors? It happens so quickly. Like if you were even to think now, how often have you maybe tried to do something or gotten a little bit uncomfortable and naturally just gone, oh, you know what, I'm not actually going to do that anymore because it was too hard, or it was hard to stay disciplined, or it didn't feel like sunshine and rainbows like you had anticipated from the beginning. Yeah. So what I had thought about this career change, I was not prepared for what was coming. Honestly, I was not prepared. And I'm in this space now where I'm going through a massive identity shift because what I realized is that my identity was education. My identity was teaching. My identity was being a leader. That was my identity. That is what I had tied myself to. Being great at things, being successful in the education space, working ridiculous hours, and never really figuring out who I was outside of that. So getting into this industry has put a mirror in front of me to be like, hey, you haven't figured out who you are outside of teaching. You haven't figured out what really drives you, what really motivates you, what really makes you happy, what really makes you feel at peace. That is a massive mirror that has been held up to me. So how did I get to this point? Well, August 2024, I jumped on a call with an amazing lady by the name of Elise who talked to me about getting into remote sales. Now, when I jumped on this call with her, I had already understood a little bit about the industry, a little bit about the coaching program that I was signing up to, and knew what it could look like. And I got on this call and she told me about the program and all these kinds of things. And I look back now and I don't laugh, but I look back and I'm like, God, I was one of those people. I told her I needed to talk to Dylan before I made the decision. Now, when I look back now, to me, that was a normal response. Well, I need to talk to Dylan first because I don't know if I want to do this yet. And so I deflected and I said, oh, I need to talk to Dylan. And I had said to her that I basically needed to talk to him about finances before making the investment. Now, everybody is different. All couples are different. Everybody has things set up. And I respect that people have joint finances and, big money decisions and things like that. But without going into too much personal information for Dylan and I, we had moved up to the Sunshine Coast, and it's basically, we hadn't exactly combined everything yet. We were still quite separate from when we were back home. And so it wasn't a matter of I needed to ask him whether or not I could invest in this program to learn the skills. I was just terrified. I was terrified. And I saw myself as someone who was a risk taker, who invested in themselves, who did bold things. And here I was terrified to take a leap of faith because I was scared. I was scared. I was fearful. It was change. And I thought I was good at change. I'd just moved states. But I was fearful. Anyway, fast forward, I ended up joining the program and I started learning how to become a remote closer. Now, when I started learning, I was still teaching at the time. So I was working 4 days on year one. I was learning outside of that. So on a Monday, I would dedicate all my time to my study. In the evenings, all my time to my study. And I started getting through the content in a couple of months. Now, the job that I do now is a closer. There is also other roles in this industry that you can do, and one of them is a setter. Now, a setter is someone who sets appointments for the closer. So basically, it's a role where you ring people who have put their details in, registered their interest with the company or the product or the service, but for whatever reason, they haven't booked a call with the closer, okay, the person who's going to do that final call. And so what you do as a setter is you reach out to them, you see if it might be a good fit, and then you book them on a call with the closer if it makes sense. If it makes sense, if you can actually help them and it's worth putting them through. And so that was something that I wanted to do because I liked the idea of understanding all the different aspects of this role in this industry in a sales team. So I was on the lookout for it. Now, come November, there was a setting role that came up. Two, actually. I had applied for one. I sent through a video, a 2-minute video, putting in my application. And I was almost ready to say yes to this company. Now, this company was selling a product and a service that I didn't really know too much about. But in this industry, you don't really need to, you need to have product knowledge. Absolutely. You need to know what you're selling. But the way that you do a sales call is really the same for any product, any service, any industry. You just tweak it based on the product or service that you're offering in a smaller way. I won't go into too much detail. But basically, I had been offered this setting role and I was almost going to take it until another setting role came up for an account that I was really passionate about. So I applied for that, got the setter role, and I started setting. So I was teaching and I was starting a brand new role as a setter coming into November, December of last year. When school had finished for the year, I was determined to do the setting role, see how I went at it, test out the income, and then I had no intentions of returning to teaching in 2025. That is when I wanted to cut the rope. I wasn't even closing, but I was at the point where I was like, if I can make setting work, if setting is something where I can see the income that I don't have to go back to teaching, then I'm going to do it. Come January, I was actually then offered to start taking closing calls. Now, the difference between setting and closing in terms of the monetary side of things, if you set a call, it's about 5% commission. If you close the call, it's about 10%. So obviously the money is going to be better when you're on closing calls. And also setting is a grind. You're ringing a lot of people, you're getting hung up on all the time. Some people are even yelling at you. Like I got yelled at a few times. But closing was the ultimate goal. And so coming into January, mind you, school doesn't go back until beginning of Feb. January, I was like, right, if I can close and I can keep this up and I can have a good close rate and I can, earn good money, I don't have to go back to teaching. Like I can do this and I can cut the rope. We call it cutting the rope in the industry. And that's what I did. I started closing in January. I was building my confidence, jumping on calls. The income was there, all those kinds of things. And I was like, I don't have to go back to teaching. So I didn't go back. And I made it work. And that was the start of the journey of like the hype, getting on calls. It's all exciting. It's all new. And then you start to understand the ins and outs of the industry, the highs and lows that come with it. And it's all part of it. It's all part of it. And when I had come into it, I honestly was in this, mindset of like all sunshine and rainbows, flexibility, money, like great. But when you actually start executing on things, you soon realize that things are harder than they seem, right? Anything worthwhile is not going to be an easy feat. Anything worthwhile is not going to be an easy feat. Now, don't get me wrong. All of those things come with the industry. Flexibility, time, freedom, all of those things. Absolutely. But for me, people are probably going to listen to this and go, you're kidding. For me, I have too much time on my hands and I have not been coping. I know it sounds crazy. But I am now in a space where I have gone from massive, massive weeks at work, always thinking about work, always head first into school, into teaching, into my programs, leading, like doing everything all the time, to all of a sudden working 15, 20 hours a week. Because when it comes down to how many bookings I get, how many calls I actually take, not everybody shows up, all those kinds of things. When I really get down to the crux of how many hours I am working and taking sales calls, it's nowhere near the workload that I was doing as a teacher. And so now I'm taking a step back I'm choosing my hours, I'm not working as much, and I have all of this spare time that I usually wouldn't have. Now, added into that mix is the fact that we have moved up here and we don't know anyone up here. We don't have our friends and family close by, they're all down home. And Dylan works away 4 days out of the week. So for me, a big struggle that I have found in the last 6 months since closing, since being able to choose my hours and have the flexibility and things, is how to create discipline working from home, how to enjoy myself outside of work. Because that up until a year ago, all I knew was work. Squeeze the gym in when you can, squeeze meal prepping when you can, squeeze some family time, some friend times when you can, but it was work. Everything was work. And then now I'm in an industry and I'm in a role where I have space and time to breathe, and I'm struggling because I don't know what to do with myself. Like the last few months have been really quite hard for me, and that is why I've started the podcast. That is why I'm trying to find things that I enjoy doing outside of work, because that's what I'm used to doing. I'm used to just being full throttle in work, and now all of a sudden I've got all this spare time. Now, I talk to Dylan about this regularly, and he knows that if I was back home, maybe a little bit different, because my mum's there, my sister's there, my friends are there. Like I have a lot of people that I could be doing things throughout the day. You know, my sister works from home, my mum's retired, my best friend's on maternity leave. Like I would probably be filling my day in with seeing them, doing things with them, and they fill my cup, absolutely. But because I'm up here, I'm like, I need to find things to do during the day. And I thought I was a really disciplined person. I really did. I thought that I was like organized, disciplined, like no problem. Work from home, I'll be able to set a schedule and stick to it. I'll be able to be disciplined in, you know, if I don't get on a sales call, someone no-shows, or I have a clear spot, that I'll just jump in and, you know, build my skills and all this kind of stuff. Like I honestly put myself on a pedestal to how disciplined I could be. And I have struggled, and I'm wrong. I'm wrong. And that is what I've struggled with the most, like taking action and being disciplined to set up a routine and have it in a way that feels good. Now, this is something that I've struggled with for the last few months. And it's something that I'm happy to talk about because it is the reality of getting into this industry and having all of this freedom. Now, my situation is quite unique in that I don't have family and friends around. I don't have those connections close by. I'm literally by myself 4 days out of the week. Now, what days do I struggle the most? Of course, it's the days when Dylan isn't here. When he's here on the weekend, different story. But it's the 4 days that he's not here that I'm left to my own devices, and I have to basically set up a schedule. run myself in a way that I have routine and things. When I was teaching, I had to find time to squeeze in the gym because that was my escape from work. I still go to the gym now, absolutely. I even do Pilates now. I'm a Pilates girl. Still got my CrossFit, I've got Pilates, I've got all those things. But outside of that, if I'm not on sales calls, there have been days where I sit here and I go, what do I do? What do I do? And so what have I been doing? Doom scrolling, Netflix. And I'm happy to admit that because I don't know, maybe there's people who are doing a change or are thinking about a change and might be in a similar position to me. But it's hard. It's hard when you are the person who has to motivate yourself to take action. Motivation is not always going to be there. Motivation is not always going to be there. It takes discipline. It takes you setting out things to do, setting a schedule, setting a routine, and being disciplined enough to do it. Okay, I love Layla Hormozi's thing that she talks about, fuck how you feel, stick to the plan. So it's like, it doesn't matter how you feel, stick to the plan that you have in place, because our motivation and our emotions are always going to fluctuate. But if we have a plan and we just stick to it, regardless of how we feel, we are going to get where we want to be. Now, there have been times where I have considered going back to teaching, going back to a job where I am just surrounded by people and doing busy work that I can just fill the day in. And someone really close to me, one of my mentors, said to me one day, like, what if the time that you have now is a mirror that is being held up to you, that you need to figure out who you are outside of what you've known for the last decade in education and work. You've only ever known that. What if this time is for that? And what I've realized now is that I was just reverting back to what was comfortable. If I just go back to a teaching job, if I just go back to a job where I'm surrounded by people or an office, then I'll feel better. It's just me numbing. It was me numbing and going back to old routines of filling in space, filling time with work, instead of actually taking the time to figure out, what do I want to do? What makes me happy? What brings me joy? So the reason I bring this up is because even people who are perceived of having it all together or knowing what they're doing, because I know that a lot of people who have either followed me in this space or followed me on my journey or have been on my Instagram or in the community that I'm learning from have this idea that I've got my shit together. But I don't. I really don't. I have to take messy action just like everybody else. It's never perfect and it's never exactly what I think it's going to be. And it's hard. And I have realized how many times I have almost fallen into the trap of, I can't do this. I'm not good at it. I want to go back to what's comfortable and what's normal. The amount of times that I have thought about, maybe we shouldn't have moved here. Maybe I should have just stayed in my comfortable assistant principal role because it was easy and I could follow the motions. Yeah, thought about it. But then I also think that there was a reason that we moved here. There was a reason that I left teaching. There was a reason that I wanted to make all these changes. And what I've realized is that when it gets uncomfortable and all of those thoughts and doubts and things creep in, that is the time to hold on and keep going. Hold on and keep going. And so if you are someone at the moment who is finding it hard, you've made a change or a situation that you're in, it's uncomfortable and you want to give up and it just feels easier to go back to old behaviors, this is for you. Because when it is hard, it is easy to go back and do those things. It is easy to fall into old behaviors or old habits, all those things. But if you go back and you just resort to what's easy, I don't know about you, but I know that if Dylan and I just packed up our bags and went back home 6, 12 months from now, a couple of years from now, oh my goodness, I would be full of regret. And so you've got to remember why did you make that bold choice in the first place? Why did you take the risk in the first place? What was your why? For me, it was I didn't want to be doing what I was doing anymore. I didn't want to be in a system that I wasn't enjoying and not being able to live a life that I really wanted, with freedom and flexibility of income and all the fun stuff, because I was tied to my job. So that was my why. So think about your why. Why are you making a big change? Why are you starting a business? Why are you doing something bold? Because getting uncomfortable is going to happen. Getting uncomfortable is part of it. But most people will just go back to being comfortable. That's the reality of things. Like, when you think about how often people will set a New Year's resolution, they'll wait until New Year's, they'll set a New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose this weight, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to spend more time here, or do something different there. How many people actually stick to it? It's all great. It's all hype in the beginning when it's exciting and you're motivated and it feels good. And then, you get a few weeks in or a few months in and you're like, oh, it's not as easy as I thought. It takes discipline. It takes dedication. It takes a multitude of things that feel uncomfortable. And so you can make excuses and you can go back to what's comfortable, or you can push through it and keep going. And it's another person who's been really influential. It's just reminded me. Good old Nettie Brockman. Nettie Brockman. He was the first person that I heard get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I used to think about it when I was at the gym. I'd be on the Echo bike. I hate the Echo bike. If you're someone who does CrossFit and you're short like me, you probably hate the Echo bike as well. And I used to think about it when I was on the Echo bike. I'd sit down and I'd stare at the 4 bolts in the middle of the bike, wild. And I would run my eyes from one bolt to the other, and I would just say to myself, get comfortable, you're uncomfortable, stay here, stay here, stay here, and pumping. Anyway, so I used to think that it applied only in that, until I did a career change, until I have been going through what I've been going through and realizing that this is the uncomfortable part of change, and I need to get comfortable with this being part of the process. So that's my final thought for you. Okay, that is the end of episode 3. Now, episode 4 is going to be my very first interview style episode, because that is what I really want to bring into this podcast. I don't just want to sit here and yap and yap and yap for episodes upon episodes. I want to be interviewing people and talking to people who are doing something bold or going off script like I have. So episode 4, my special guest. I'm excited and I'm honored to have them as my very first special guest, but I will leave it until I post episode 4 for you to figure out who it is. Bye for now.